Great. Now that we are in the session, hello and welcome to everyone saying chatting in the chat section. I'm looking very forward to interacting with you in this workshop. Before we start, I'd like to say that this is a very interactive form of a workshop, and my intention is here is to show that consumer roles in a circular economy are perhaps a little bit different than what they are advertised as today. More details, of course, in the presentation, but at the end, hopefully, we'll have some time and we can talk a little bit and exchange some ideas. Great. Now that with that introduction, I would also like to repeat my words earlier. Please do introduce yourself, my dear audience, in the chat section, so that I know who you are and what you do, and perhaps also write about what brought you here and what are the reasons that you're interested in attending such a workshop. This is also valuable information that that other audience members and I could benefit from. Great. Now, with that in mind, let's begin. Right. So, from zero waste to a sharing economy, there are no shortage of buzzwords surrounding the complex field of circular economy today. If given the knowledge, the general public can play a remarkably important role in driving effective change. On for the ride are two digital tools that decision makers use, and they come with the expanded knowledge of the circular economy ecosystem in this workshop, of course. One important note that I just realized that I should share with all of you is that while I'm doing the presentation, I would not be able to see the chat function since both my screens are then covered. So if I might have any questions, I would come to them in the middle of the presentation when I switch my screens. All right, so let's talk about the introduction. And I would lead you through all of these topics. We're going to talk about consumer choices. We're also going to talk about digital tools that are used today for circular economy. And lastly, about effective change. Now, before we do any of that, who am I and why am I talking to you? Well, it's quite simple. I'm a very average person. I'm 27. I don't drive a car. In fact, I might be a little bit scared of traffic. I'm professionally educated in environmental matters, as you can see. And I currently work in the fields shown here. I like things that everyone else likes. I like food, I like fashion, and I also like technology. But food, fashion, and technology, I mean, there's me, but I'm not the only one, right? Let's do a thought experiment. I spend around this much of my household's income, so 12% of my household's income on food, 5% on fashion, and around 1.3% on electronics. When you multiply these numbers by the millions of others in Europe, at least, we get numbers that are beyond human comprehension. The problem is that this level of consumption, of course, obviously generates a lot of waste. So let's talk about this waste, shall we? The first thing, food. 1/3 of our food today goes to waste. Yet food production is one of the most significant emitters of CO2, not to mention the environmental harm that comes with the intensive practices we've begun to use post-industrialization. In terms of fashion, consumers today are buying 60% more clothes, more than just 15 years ago. But yet the shelf life of those garments has halved. And I'm not even getting into the 500,000 tons of microfibers that are released into the ocean every year, equivalent to 50 billion plastic bottles every year. Consider this: every second, the equivalent of one garbage truck full of textiles is landfilled or burned. I'm sure that presenters before me also covered the topic of sustainable fashion, and presenters after me would also cover the topic of e-waste. So I wouldn't waste your time with statistics that you might already know about. But the idea here is that we produce 16 kilos of e-waste per person per year, and most of it is unrecyclable. And this waste potentially finds its way to developing countries where people far less privileged than you or I risks their lives to extract a livelihood from them. As you might imagine, me or anyone concerned with the environmental field is particularly enamored by these numbers. Well, okay, so what choices do we have? Let's talk about our choices. Right? Let's try to solve these issues. What we can do is we can educate ourselves. We can use marketing. We can use eco-labels, or in terms of that, we can understand the marketing and consumption patterns behind sustainability. Or we can talk about volunteerism or policy level change. Let's start with education, right? So I'm sure everyone here already knows what a circular economy is, but I would just like to very quickly go through it. What is a circular economy? In a linear economy, we take raw materials, we make them into products that we can use, and then we dispose of the byproducts, right? In a circular economy, on the other hand, the aim is to connect all of these steps with each other to reduce and eliminate possible waste. Here's a neat diagram that my colleagues at Bioplastics Europe made to explain the circular loop. And now, I mean, you might ask, Arjun, isn't that just recycling though? Well, there is a key difference between recycling and circular economy. Recycling is a methodology to reuse waste, while circular economy is an encompassing concept to avoid producing it altogether. So you are going into the heart of the issue here. So let's understand the processes of the circular economy, right? So I wouldn't waste your time with this. Number one, let's design out waste and pollution and use less primary resources. That's very important. Number two, we try to maintain or keep the products and materials in use for as long as possible. And number three, we will regenerate, or we try to regenerate natural systems and change utilization patterns. With this out of the way, let's talk education as the key aspect of this, being the key aspect of this environmental reform. But for this, we need to know the why and the what of circular economy, right? A great example here would be the zero waste community, as they've done so much to inform the general public about the waste issues we have today as a society. In fact, just today, I did a waste audit of my household to understand our waste patterns better. In a household of 3, we produced 40% organic waste by weight, 40% recyclable waste, and while the rest is glass or paper for reuse. Might I mention, it's not usual etiquette to show your trash to everyone at a conference, but the organizers of Zero Waste Festival Berlin told me that this event is about breaking rules. So we're all rule breakers here, and regardless, I mean, everyone has trash, and it has nothing to be afraid of. If we're talking about circular economy, we should be proud of the little trash we do produce. Right. So let's get into these individual actions. These individual actions might help us remove our consumerist guilt, but we must understand that these methods just shift the production of waste upstream instead of getting rid of the issue itself. Okay, so let's say that we have talked about education a lot, and I'm sure that I can talk a little bit more about this, but let's keep that for our later session. Taking care of that, let's move on now to eco-labels, right? Okay, so what are eco-labels? Before we talk about that, I want to give you an example. This plastic bag, which you see here, was buried underground for 3 years. This was the time frame that was advertised for this plastic bag to then decompose. As you can see here in this picture, the bag is still structurally sound enough to hold weight. What does this mean? Well, I think the conversation here should shift to eco-labels, because in the field of plastic bags alone, there are many labels that claim some sort of compostability or biodegradability, as you might imagine. And this inevitably leads to consumer confusion. We have to understand that eco-labels are important marketing tools for producers to market the environmentally friendly aspects of their product, right? By the way, I'd like to shout out to my old project, Bioplastics Europe, who are currently doing excellent research in the field of plastics and their bioplastic replacements. So please check them out at the link here. I will be posting this link as well in the chat. So we're still not done with eco-labels, right? The thing is, everyone likes eco-labels because they're simple and easy to use and understand. Consumers are attracted to simple eco-labels because they provide clear decision-making, but simplicity can undermine the efficacy of environmental claims. This criteria of the criteria of deciding which products should fall into which categories of these labels and the difficulty of making direct functional comparisons between these products can be completely against these simplicity claims, of course, and so on and so forth. There's some very clear issues with eco-labels that need a very important discussion. But again, I would like to redo the point here, or repeat the point here, that eco-labels are a marketing aspect. And the bigger the eco-label is, the more it is accepted by other people, by producers, by consumers. And this might result in the loss of certain criteria. A very good example here is the bio label that we have here in Germany. And you might know that, or I'm sure that you know that a lot of environmentalists here are not particularly impressed by the standards of this label. Let's just say that eco-labels have a long way to go, right? Okay, so now that we've talked about eco-labels, let's talk about our final topic for today, which is volunteerism and policy level change. Okay, what does that mean? Right. Now, you might be asking at this point, Arjun, wait a minute. I've already tried fitting 4 years of my waste into a mason jar, and I used coconut shells to scrub my dirty dishes. Is there any way that we can go beyond these measures and drive effective change? Well, I'm very glad you asked. How do we drive effective change? I think the first thing that we need to realize is that individual solutions are not enough. As we discussed before, these individual solutions shift the responsibility of the consumer waste upstream, which means that people who are producing these products for you to consume are then responsible for this. In my opinion, this should be the case in the first place, and this is not the case as of yet, but I hope this will increasingly become the case. But the important aspect here is that this waste has not magically disappeared. If you go buy grain from a zero waste to zero packaging shop, they still receive their grain in some sort of packaging. It's just that it's not visible to you. So to create this real change, it needs to be systemic, right? It needs to come from the system itself, and people need to change the way they think and the way they use altogether, instead of just shifting their consumption patterns a little bit. And to do that, we need to focus on these decision makers who are actually responsible, the people who are actually responsible for these issues, the people that we put there. So taking these decision makers in mind, right? Let's see, who are they, what do they do, and how do they do it? Now, the first thing is that these decision makers are from all over the place, right? Like, they're businessmen, they're industrial tycoons, they're scientists, politicians, people who are in the position to affect your life in terms of circular economy are circular economy decision makers and stakeholders. You are a stakeholder, they are a stakeholder. The idea is that these people then are responsible for a lot of the changes that we are seeing today. What do they do? Well, it's different depending on the use case of what they have to do. They might analyze some aspects, they might assess something, they might implement in terms of, in cases of politicians. For scientists, of course, they report, right? And how do they do it? Well, they have information. This is the base characteristic of a decision maker. A decision maker is quite useless without the information that they need to make these decisions. And they also might use specialized tools that build up on this information, this hidden information that we as consumers might not have the time to see or might not have the resources to get access to. So my idea here is that, or I argue that to drive effective change, we need to understand what role we can play in the system. And this might be the best way to exercise our rights as informed customers. To do that, we need to understand what are the tools that are available to us as consumers, right? So let's talk about these tools, right? Coming up, we have, at this point, I would like to introduce you to my old project, Force. We just had a discussion about Force in my previous panel discussion. Marie Finke, my dear colleague from my last panel discussion, also spoke a lot about the bio-waste stream that Force was dealing with in Lisbon, in Portugal. So let's talk about what they have done, right? Valdemar Pires is the CMO of Adapters, which is an ad agency. They work in collaboration with Daria Kodar, which is an agency or a collaboration between many, many donors, many, many volunteers, many, many receivers that are connected to share food and to prevent wastage. This is such a simple idea, right? So as a part of this project, this project was to create a circular economy platform for Lisbon. And being responsible for the waste stream of food, they made a web app that connected donors, receivers, volunteers, beneficiaries, anyone who has a stake to play in this bio waste stream, with a platform called Lisboa Zero. And I interviewed him actually for this workshop via video, and maybe he can share with us some results and some new things about this platform. I will exit my screen here really quick and share with you my presentation tab. Let's see, is Valdemar here? I see that he's here. And hold on, I need to change a few things about this sharing. Yes, great. Great. Now let's watch Valdemar and let's see if he can explain to us what Lisboa Zero is.
Hi, Arjun. How are you? First of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and be able to share our vision and our Zero web apps. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. As an architect, marketing and founder of my communication and design agency, sustainability was always in my thoughts. The big question was always how to manage and find the best solutions to solve challenge and projects without compromising the future. And with this question, I really believe that since the beginning, the concept of sustainability has always been more than the environmental dimension for us. It has always included the social and economic dimensions, also the business dimension, and also the ability to grow and engage people, companies, and organizations. Perhaps that is why since the beginning of our agency, with more than 10 years in Portugal and 25 years in USA, we have always developed several projects to support social and environmental causes, such as the zero waste model. That was the first step to develop our new web app. Also, our first question and issue that we addressed when start working with our customers was always sustainability. Talking about circular economy, the way we embrace Force Projects challenge and the idea of cities collaborating for circular economy was asking ourselves this challenge: how digital transformation, strategic design, and communication can bring people and companies together and can bring to the table this concept that is so often considered as difficult and demanding as circular economy. That was our how might we in a design thinking way. And with this challenge, we started to work with our Equador Zero Waste model in Portugal. This organization has already recovered more than 10 million meals, about 26 million euros, and avoided more than 21 tons of CO2 emissions. These results are amazing, but they are still highly manual and demanding because they appear with a complex process with back and forward contacts, with demanding follow-up, permanent follow-up by direct or direct zero waste model to all the donor and the distribution network. That is why we created for them the Zero Web App. They were our inspiration. And this new web app is accessible for any device and allows in three simple actions: login, submit a donation, and activate a donation to process what previously was so complex with several phone contacts, filling out forms, and always demanding so many time. With the new Zero Web app, after donating food or other goods such as textiles, EEE, books, appliance, an automatic message alert is generated for entities and NGOs in that area, okay? And they are able to collect and prepare the collection of these goods and reach out those who need it most in a very lean way, in a very clean way. So this new process contributes and amplifies also the social responsibility of all of us because it is a collaborative platform. And also for the companies, and avoid waste, recover economic value, and avoid CO2 emissions. Our Zero Web App is the first one also that is based on real-time data, quantities, category, frequencies. It allows us to build up specialized KPIs in real time to deliver reports to each entity, comparative benchmarking, and also how to manage all the waste in different sectors in the best way. So, as you can imagine with all this, we are very proud of this work, and this is why we are so happy to share with you this idea. Talking about data, talking about numbers, for us is so important because we believe that real data, when communicated in a very clear way, it is the key to behavior changing. Also, our new Zero Web App has a logged area where companies and NGOs can access to dedicated reports, of course, but also it has a public area dedicated to the entire community and citizens with content, indicators, KPIs that also help to transform everyone's behavior, my decisions, your decisions, how you buy, how you consume goods, and also for all the entrepreneurs and startups to create new and more circular and sustainable management and business models. The company's memberships is free in the pilot project, and the results in the pilot with brands that are really important to us, like Auchan, Ritz Hotels, and Pindos, one of the largest hotels network in Portugal. In 2 months, were like 5,000 donations of food, for instance. 25 tons of waste were managed. 100 tons of CO2 emissions were avoided, and more than 125,000 euros were recovered. This is a result of 2 months. Well, now it's time to get started and to go live. And this will happen this month, September. Okay, it will happen firstly in Lisbon with a dedicated version of the web app to the city. That is why it will be called the Lisbon Zero app. The campaign will be multi-channel with social media, advertising, content marketing, newsletters, etc. on all platforms, and will explore for us a concept that now I share with you. Zero can be more. And you will be able also to check out our concepts. We are very proud of our work so far. And we are looking forward to be able to share with you the live platform and also to give this new tool to the world, ready to assume itself as, for us, the first truly circular economy process management tool for all the streams. Thank you so much. Be more circular. Be with us. Thank you. Bye-bye, Arjun.
Well, I have to say, Valdemar comes across with a very inspiring message that zero can be more. And going forward in this workshop, I would like to concentrate on those words here. But he said, let's be more circular. Zero can be more. Why is zero a null digit? It is not. It could be a lot more than what we currently assume it to be. Now, since Valdemar is a very, very dear colleague of mine, he actually gave me, or gave us as an audience, a sneak peek look at this web app interface. It is in beta right now, and it is definitely not completely ready for all of us to see. But I will be sharing with you my screen, and perhaps we could just have a look at it and see what he was talking about, right? So this is the Zero app. And you can see here that there are some numbers over here. It's all in Portuguese because these numbers are used by donors and receivers in Lisbon. And you can see here that there is a history that you can see. You can also see how much economic value is being extracted, amortized from these wasted materials. How much are we saving on CO2? These are numbers that people can really, really use. These are numbers that that are not just interesting for politicians who have to perhaps promote themselves through their achievements. These are important numbers that might help your neighbor to stop throwing away his food and to start saving. These are numbers that might inspire people to actually perhaps drive effective change. So I really do I request you to get in touch with Adapters Portugal and Valdemar. I will be sharing the way to contact with them just in a few minutes. But having a look at this, I would like to now move into a demo that perhaps you as the audience could open up right on the side and explore with us. There's another person that I interviewed. His name is Tahir Bilyalov. He is the digital product manager of, one second. He is the digital product manager at Circular Economy, and he has a live demo for us, this time really live, where he explains what his city scan tool does. So I will go into sharing my screen again.
Well, to introduce myself, my name is Tahir Bilyalov. I'm a digital product manager at Circular Economy. Circular Economy is it's a non-profit organization which is focused on transition to circular economy, hence the name. And what we do is research and consulting and convening activities, which mainly focused on coming up with an action plan with a local partner for this transition to circular economy. And that way we differ a little bit from a traditional think tank, which would only do research and publish a report. We also differ in that way from consultants who focus on just requests from the user. We see ourselves really as an organization which likes to partner with a local actor together to create understanding of the context, of the opportunities for circular economy, and lay out an action plan. And we're about 50 people. We're based out of Amsterdam. And in order to scale what we do, we really see digital as a vehicle for that. Because really what we could provide to like our partners is our knowledge and expertise. And that's what oftentimes is missing in especially countries which may be not as advanced in circular economy as Northwestern Europe is, right? And this expertise and knowledge is rare and also expensive. So even if you want to work with us, like, I mean, we, of course, we charge like reasonable for European standards daily rate, but for developing countries, so countries from the global south, it could be prohibitively expensive. And like I said, our goal is to enable transition. So we see how can we achieve similar impact by putting our knowledge and expertise and methodologies and data into digital tools and then offer them to local actors instead of ourselves to be enabled to create this action plan for transition in the local context for circular economy. And we work with businesses and cities mainly. So we don't focus on consumer behavior. We focus on business and cities. Usually it is bigger businesses. And we also have a few thematic programs which focus on textile industry, which focus on the subject of financing circular economy initiatives, and also on jobs and skills in the circular economy. And as a first like step in expanding our impact with digital, we've decided to choose cities. As we have a good expertise, as we understand.
I would just pause here and talk about a little bit about what Tayyar is talking about. As you can see here, cities are very key aspects to our circular economy visions, right? And the important thing that Tayyar and his team did here is that they created a tool for perhaps any kind of stakeholders that usually is available only to consultants. Like, for example, what Tayyar said, it's not just available to us, it's available to everyone. This tool can be accessed right now by you from this link. I will just paste this link into the chat here. And if you all could help me out and open it in a parallel tab while I explain what we're talking about here, that would be great. So I would just resume the demo that Tayyar did here, and you can also perhaps have it on the side. I will skip to the part where he starts, and I will try to keep it short because we're running out of time.
Everything what is circular is covered with this framework. So this already brings a lot of value to users who are just starting to explore circular economy, because there's a lot of different definitions around the world. A lot of organizations have a different way to look at it and to structure it. So this is, of course, it's our framework. And behind each of these strategies, we try to offer example case studies of when that strategy was implemented. So in our research, like this is what we found is most useful to users, to really see examples which could be inspiring and could also help them analyze which is more relevant to their context. So this was the first, like, let's say the minimal value we tried to provide to the users, given a framework of strategies and the examples to inform them to see if it's applicable to the context or not. And to take it one step further, that's what we do as consultants. We try to help users prioritize which of the strategies are more relevant to their context.
So just before we move on to the next page here, I would like to recap just very quickly what he said. This is the MVP, the minimum valuable product that they made for understanding how circular economy can be implemented in a city. As you can see over on this side, you can select the city that you're from. In fact, we can do a very quick live demo here as well. So let's open this up. And let us share this screen with you. Right. So let's go to Hamburg, because that's where I'm from. And we can enter the name of our city here. We can now look at what this tool does, right? So as you can see here, there's a bunch of different strategies written on the edge of the circle here. And each of those strategies has then sub-strategies that people could use. So this is basically a circular economy thinking represented in a circle. We can see what kind of data we have for Hamburg. For example, we have sector data for agriculture, mining, manufacturing, all of these data that comes in from publicly available data sources. We also have data on emissions, on jobs, perhaps in the future also on material inputs. Going further, we can then input what is our focus. So we can say that we would like to focus our efforts. Let's see, the gross value added for Hamburg, the most that we're doing is a trade, transport, accommodation, food and service activities, which of course makes sense. Hamburg is a port city and it sees a lot of tourists. So it has, as you can see here, it has a lot of jobs, it's adding a lot of value. It is also producing a lot of emissions here. So let's take this as a focus, right? You can see here what this means for Hamburg in particular, and as well as what this means in this tool. Moving forward, we can then press narrow by material. So now what we can do is we can use the materials that have the most input and the biggest waste. For Hamburg, perhaps this section is not really working as well as it does for Amsterdam, where this data is readily available. But you could see what input the industry or this or of what input of material to receive and what output is wasted or what waste is output. We can pick biomass, or we can pick fossil carriers. Let's see, that's the biggest input that we have. And now we can say what kind of impacts do we want to have in terms of sustainable development goals. So as you can see here, there's many sustainable development goals that we could fulfill. So let's just try to fulfill all of them. Why not? Now, what this tool does, the main meat of this tool is that it recommends to you what you could do in your city, taking examples from other projects from around the world. So let's click on this open loop upcycling. It has been given a relevant score of 51 out of 100. And let's have a look at what this means. Now, as you see here, there's a lot of different projects from different cities that people could read more about and perhaps take inspiration. So I really wanted to show this tool to all of you because I think this is such an interesting way to free and readily available as well, way to not just get data about your city, but also apply that data into possible inspirations from all over the world. Going forward in the future, Tahir told me in the interview, which I guess we don't have any more time for, Tahir told me about his work, and in the future they would like to have a sort of a Wikipedia for circular economy projects from all around the world, where people, if they were to do circular economy projects, could come to this page, input their project, and then find partners from different cities. Isn't that cool? Like, to have a digital tool that connects you with like-minded people all over the world for this specific thing. This is something that I think could make a lot of difference in a lot of decision-making for people. Right, now, I would like to take a step back and get back to the presentation, right? So let's go back here. And let's see. Tahir just gave us a presentation. Let's talk about... I'm sorry, I seem to be having some issues here, but I guess we can move on. So, all right, well, that was a great introduction to these decision-making tools, but you might ask me, Arjun, as a consumer, what am I supposed to do with the metabolic analysis data of my city? These are decision-making tools that perhaps do not make sense for good reason to consumers. And I understand that our lives are busy and that we have other things to deal with. Therefore, we elected these decision makers to take these decisions for us. But I believe that if we were to change the way that we interact with our political system, we can drive effective change. So step one for this is to engage. And what this means is to let your public representatives know that you care about these issues. Step two in my framework, which will get revealed as we go along, is to participate. And what that means is to take part in local circular economy initiatives, surveys, or service launches that might be interesting to you. These projects need consumers. They need growth to be proven to the decision makers that they're important. Step three is to inform. And what this means is not just to educate yourself, but also to educate others about political actions and news. And this is very important to be an informed consumer, because this allows you to spread the positive impact that you're having. And lastly, to communicate, which means sharing of personal goals and perhaps even using social media to spread the news. To achieve all of this, I created a tool, right? So on my website right now, you can go there and we can have a look at what I mean for all of us. I will stop sharing my screen just very quickly one last time. So we're back here, and this is my website, what I created. Here is the link to this website where you can find the interviews as well as the connection details to Valdemar and to Tahir. You can also find my slides here. I argue that the best approach would be to reach out to public decision makers and participate in circular economy projects with them, right? So what I did was I researched and contacted all state-level circular economy advisors and their offices from Germany. So each and every state in Germany has a place on this table here, and all of the ministries have their emails written down here, and all of the advisors for circular economy from these ministries are also listed down here. So let's say that you're living in Hamburg, right? Let's say the responsible person for your region is Mr. Bear. So we can just copy his name here or copy his email address. And keeping this in mind, I went one step further, right? I also created an email template that you could use to then email these decision makers. To make that one little step of taking the initiative easier for you, I created that so that you can use this email template. It's very easy to do. You just press this button over here, and it should ask you to open an email, right? And in this email, you can write whatever you'd like to your circular economy representative. You can use the template that I have given on my website. You can also use any other words that you might have for yourself. But the idea is that over here, we just replace the name of the city and as well as our name here, and perhaps also CC their office into receiving this email. So let's copy this as well. And there we go. Right, and we can press send, because I am actually interested in receiving these informations, and I hope that you are too. In this email template, there's also one available in German, so if you are a German citizen, or if you're interested in contacting your decision makers in German, please do feel free to use the German template. It works the same way. Now, this brings me to the end of my presentation, and I think we are very much out of time, so I will really hurry this up. and talk about my ambition. My ambition here was to prove that an informed, active public body can bring fast, widespread reform to the current state of circular economy. So please do feel free to get in touch with me about any of the themes we discussed here via emails or my website or LinkedIn. And I'd like to thank you for your time, and I would like to invite any questions that you might have now. For the people who are willing to share their screens with me, please do click on this blue button. Otherwise, please ask your questions in the chat, and we can answer them one by one. I see here Mark is already waiting for the moderation panel to be added to this group somehow. Let's see, is Mark here? There seems to be some issue. Anyway, does anyone have any questions regarding my presentation? Please do feel free to step up right now. Great, thank you, Simon. Looking forward to being in touch with you as well. Any other participants that would like to ask any questions? If not, I request you please do come to my website. Please do get in touch with me. Please do email your decision makers. Please do email people like Marc de la Perrière, who's leading the zero waste revolution in the city of Kiel. These people are out there and they need your help, and it would be very, very useful for them to have your support. On this note, I would like to end my workshop, and I wish you all a great evening ahead. Good talks for the coming future. I would be in the networking session if anyone needs to video call me. And yes, see you all tomorrow for my panel discussion with Coral and Ulla. And yes, I'm very willing to see you all again there. Thank you so much, Annika. I just got your text. Thank you very much. All right, I will be leaving the session now. Goodbye.